Well, if there's a team that has kind of built their very short reputation on shocking folks, it's Indiana, right? And Kirk Cignetti has turned that program around. He did it by going to the portal, finding proven starters, maybe guys that weren't 4 and 5 stars, but guys that had contributed to winning programs. And very quickly, he built a winning culture at Indiana. He has the confidence, the bravado, obviously, that comes with his reputation. He's kind of a pull up by your bootstraps kind of coach anyway, if you've listened to his journey to Indiana. And I think the Hoosiers certainly have that element of house money on their side, right? Indiana has built this thing very, very quickly. Their one loss to Ohio State didn't look great, playing against a team that was far more athletic, far more physical than you. But then again, maybe they learned a thing or two. They can find a way to exploit the weaknesses of Notre Dame. On the other side, though, the Irish have just kind of been quietly in the background since their week 2 loss to Northern Illinois. They've really drubbed their opponents, and there were a lot of questions about Notre Dame. Can they be stout enough on the offensive line? They lost 3 offensive line starters throughout the course of the season, starting with their left tackle in fall camp. The defensive line has also suffered some casualties and some injuries. Riley Leonard was not exactly an aerial assault waiting to happen through the air, but Notre Dame has figured out how to win this year, and Jeremiah Love has been a big part of that. So, guys, when I broke this game down on paper, Indiana has a number of stats that I think are eye-popping, right? And they're certainly impressive. Top 25 total offense, number 2 ranked scoring offense. Defense is actually ranked second in the country in total defense. Their scoring defense ranks in the top 10. They're the top rushing defense statistically in the country. There's a lot of reasons on paper to like Indiana, but I guess I'll kick us off with our projections here. I've got Notre Dame defending home turf here. I'm going to take Notre Dame 24-14 over Indiana. I look at that Ohio State game and I go, when Indiana was forced to line up and win the line of scrimmage against a team that was superior to them in just about every way imaginable, Indiana really struggled to control the offensive line specifically. They could not control the interior. They couldn't get that running game going. Curtis Rourke had no time to pass the football. Notre Dame isn't quite Ohio State as far as the Jimmies and the Joes and the health goes, but I'm still going to lean on Notre Dame here at home to get a 10-point win.
When I wrote it down, I have it 10 points exactly as well. I've got Notre Dame 27-17. I think Indiana can score, but this is a Notre Dame team that has not played a one-possession game since September 28th, guys. Yeah. That's how bad they've been beating the teams on their schedule. Obviously, it's not the most what's the word I'm looking for? Like murderer's row of schedules, right? And Indiana can obviously say the same thing, but Notre Dame has been really, really impressive quietly, like you mentioned, Mitch, just kind of staying in the background, staying under the radar, but they've been just bludgeoning every single team on their schedule. The USC game was closer than the final score might appear, but they were firmly in control of that game for most of it. So I just like the defensive prowess of Notre Dame in this game. I think the closest thing that we've seen from Indiana is that Ohio State game, and it just didn't go well after that first scripted drive. I think Indiana will get their points. I think they'll get a few yards, but Notre Dame's just going to be too physical for my money, and I'll take them to win by about 10 points as well.
Yeah, this is the game I feel the most confident picking. I think Notre Dame wins, and it's going to be fairly convincing. My final score here is actually going to be 27-10. I don't really give the Hoosiers much of a chance here. I know it's kind of bah humbug and curmudgeon-y here. But really my big thing is, when I was looking at some of the stats and breaking it down, I'm looking at like the passing proficiency for Indiana versus Notre Dame, and I'm thinking, whoa, they got a real chance. And then my eye just barely caught their rushing numbers, which is the stuff you need to go on the road and actually take care of business. In their 2 games for Indiana where they really played decent competition, and again, I'm not trying to trash the rest of the Big Ten, but when you look at their biggest games, Michigan and Ohio State, their rushing numbers 40 yards and 83 yards. That's good for 1.4 and 2 yards per carry, respectively. Notre Dame is stout. They can get it done. They get after you on the defensive side. And if you're facing a bunch of long downs and thick boxes, I just don't like Indiana's chances in this one. I think it's a bad matchup for them. And I just think Notre Dame's going to find a way to hold on to the ball, get their short fields, convert, score points, and put this one away fairly early. I don't think this is super competitive by the time we hit the fourth quarter.
Yeah, this feels like a bad matchup for Indiana because Notre Dame likes to play press man coverage on the outside. They've got the cornerbacks to be able to do that. Their safeties have done a nice job controlling the tight ends throughout the season. And so what that means is you're going to have routine 6, 7, maybe 8-man boxes if you've got a blitz coming, where Indiana, their success comes from establishing the run and throwing it off of that. And I know Curtis Rourke and Elijah Surratt and the wide receivers have gotten a lot of run this year, but the running game has been very consistent. And, you look at the game against Washington, for instance, the running game was the most consistent thing that the Hoosiers had going for them in a very close game. If Indiana can't run the football, I have a really hard time thinking that Curtis Rourke is going to find his spots to pick on man-to-man coverage on the outside from these Fighting Irish corners. Now, there obviously is a world where Indiana can pull a Herculean upset. I don't think they've played since maybe 91 or 92. Notre Dame won that game. So, I mean, this would be kind of Rudy in reverse, right, for the Hoosiers. My question for you guys is, what is the path to victory for Indiana?
I think it's relying on their defense. I think getting a bunch of stops and frustrating that Notre Dame offense, which, again, has been really underrated this year. Riley Leonard really came into his own after that NIU loss, and they found a way to make him work in that offense. But I think it's relying on the defense and turning this into an uglier, low-scoring game. Trying to out-physical Notre Dame on the ground offensively is going to be a really difficult task for the Hoosiers. But I think if they can stifle the run game for Notre Dame, force some 3-and-outs early, maybe pick up a turnover and get a short field, that would be huge for their chances.
Well, and Trey, kind of to that point, I think one of the best ways they could have a good chance here is get a quick lead, right? Go get out 10-0 or 14-0 real quick and put Notre Dame in a position to have to win through the air. I just don't think they're going to be able to win through the air consistently. I think that's ultimately what's going to hold Notre Dame back in terms of their title aspirations. But if they want to come out here and jump out real quick, maybe get a, like you're saying, Trey, get a quick turnover, do something good with their first drive, maybe start with the ball, scripted something really nice. If you can get out here, go up 10-0 or 14-0 and make Notre Dame feel like they got to throw the ball to get back into this thing, that's where I think you can take advantage of some of the weaknesses on their offense. Otherwise, if you let them be balanced on offense, if you let them kind of pick up their little 10 to 12 yard hitters in the air and mostly just run the ball, it's going to be lights out and it's going to be a long day for you and keeping your defense on the field and stuff like that.
I think Jeremiah Love has a big game for Notre Dame in this one as well. He's got almost 1,000 yards from scrimmage on the season, 15 touchdowns, and I believe he's going for nearly 7 yards a carry right now. If you hadn't heard of Jeremiah Love, you did. Seeing him hurdle a couple of defenders in the USC game. He's been very consistent for Notre Dame all season long. Riley Leonard, as you mentioned, has come along as a passer, Trey. He can do it on the ground as well. I think there's few too many weapons. It's just too composed of a battle station for Marcus Freeman, who also got a 4-year extension there in South Bend. We'll talk about coaching and carousels and transfer portal and all that. We've got plenty of time as the offseason matriculates on. But yeah, very excited for Notre Dame. They're intent on winning a national championship. It feels like Marcus Freeman might be the guy to get him there.
Gracious him. How about